and welcome to Martial Mentality, a martial arts inspired podcast. I'm your host, Delmar Minor, and today I have with me Miss Bobby Elliott, and I have Mr. Joseph Blackwelder. How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Excellent, excellent.
Glad to be here as always.
And so, real quick, for those of you out in YouTube land who maybe don't know who we are, I have been doing martial arts for over 21 years. I'm the head instructor here at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu. And Joseph has been training here for about 2 years now.
Yes, sir.
And Bobby's been training here for about 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Same.
So both of these guys actually come to the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu, and they are an integral portion of this podcast. So we want to thank them for being on and helping behind the scenes. And what you guys can do for us out there in listening land and YouTube land is like, share, and subscribe. We are on YouTube at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu. We're also on Facebook as well at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu and on Instagram. So, guys, let's go ahead and get started with our topic today. I'm really excited about this one. Teaching and training women versus men.
Another controversial one.
Yes, yes.
It's a good topic.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get started. And of course, we're gentlemen, so we're always going to start ladies first.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Bobby, as a woman, do you feel there are certain aspects of training that are harder for you than men, or something that maybe, I guess, with your training, you feel like you struggle more with than the opposite sex? I mean, so kind of go through that.
There's a few things. It's definitely a boys' club, so it's nice that you feel like you're a family and you have like a bunch of brothers around you. But, I don't have the strength when it comes to muscles that a lot of the guys do. That's something I think is a little bit harder. Something I struggle with is that strength, dexterity. I will say that flexibility is something I find a little bit easier. I don't know if it's just like body makeup or the way women's bodies are made to like contract and stuff because of having kids, that we do have a little more flexibility. That's definitely a lot easier. I don't know if it's a woman or man thing, but definitely controlling my emotions. More so because women are hormonal creatures and our hormones fluctuate a lot. There is a certain time of the month where my hormones just get a little out of control. And I've told you before that sparring during those times, I can't. It's hard. It's not that I can't. It's hard for me to control my anger level a lot.
Do you get angry?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Interesting.
I go through this weird thing to where if somebody's getting the best of me, I'm like teetering on a line of, am I about to cry or I'm about to get angry?
Mm-hmm.
And there's been one instance where I literally had to take my helmet off and just walk away, breathe, and try to get myself back together, because when your hormones fluctuate so erratically during the month, then it's really hard I may have a really steady, good mindset at some point, but when you have all these other factors, it makes it very difficult to control that mentality.
Tipping point.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. That's definitely something I struggle with, just because being the hormonal creature and women, we fluctuate through the month. Sometimes our testosterone's up, sometimes it's down, sometimes our estrogen's up, sometimes it's down. And learning how to work with that so that it doesn't get the best of me, because that's one thing I don't ever want to do, is get to where I'm like, F this, and I'm walking out the door.
Yeah.
So I remember a time where I did not know that you were dealing with that time. And Bobby was just very moody that day. And I was like, what is wrong with Bobby? And I was trying to encourage Bobby. So those of you who don't know, like when I push, sometimes I'll literally like push Bobby, like, you're gonna do this, and I'll be in Bobby's face and I'm really barking at her. But Bobby's tough, so she can take it. and it kind of helps motivate her.
Yeah.
And so on this day, Bobby was not feeling
She
that.
barked back.
What?
Yeah. The whole class
Not
turned
today.
around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I don't know what I did to you. I don't know
either.
if I like. I was like, "What is wrong with you?" And I think I threw the helmet at you, or I did something. And
Yeah.
you came up to me, and she just kind of broke down a little bit. And I was like, "Oh God!" I'm like, "Well, are you okay?"
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. You were pushing me to do
Was
something.
you sparring?
I don't think so. I think we were. You know how we'll do light sparring sometimes where it's not full on
Or a
like
drill or something?
yeah.
Right.
We were doing something and you kept harping on me about something, not in a bad way, but like, and I just remember at one point, I said something about I don't want to do this, and you're like, well, if you don't, then you can do some horse jump, or no, that's what it was. You were like, well, you can spar me, and I'm like, I'll spar you. I'll fight everybody in here. And I remember,
Woo.
yeah, I remember Bender turning around like, are you sure about that?
Listen, it was like that scene
Yeah.
from The Exorcist where the head spinning around and the
Yeah.
peas shooting out. Like
It-
I was like,
it-
"Oh God, what is wrong with her
It
today?"
really
She wasn't
was.
happy,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was just something that it was like that switch that just flipped, and I was just like, ah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It gets
And-
the better of us sometimes.
Oh yeah,
you
and
know.
I think everybody in class was just like looking at me like, oh God, what happened?
Right.
But yeah, there's been a few times, and I think that's one thing that's hard about being a girl is because, girls don't like to talk to boys about that time of the month, and it's hard for me to be like, hey man, this week is a little rough for me. I got my period, so warning. Yeah,
So I'm okay. So the kids, particularly the teenagers, there are some of the young ladies that are going through that transition.
Yeah.
And it is very interesting because, now that I have older nieces that they're young ladies, so I'm becoming more sensitive to that as a
Yeah.
guy. Because as guys, I mean, he'll tell you, we don't really understand.
We have no clue.
We
And
don't.
and I don't want to act like I know.
Exactly.
Because when we talk about controlling our emotions, it's like I do believe like everybody can learn and control their emotions, but I can't sit there and say I know what it's like in a woman's shoes to deal with that
Yeah.
month after month.
We don't.
It's gotta suck.
Yeah,
Like,
it's crazy. It wasn't really until I got older, and now that I'm 42 and I'm premenopausal, I started really looking into it and researching a lot more. And it's crazy what your body really does go through because the week prior or the week before, we're getting tired, we're getting more sluggish, we don't have the same amount of energy. Then during that time of the month, it's almost like having the flu. Like your body is completely drained of all its minerals and iron, and you're cold, you're sore, you're hurting. But then the very next week, it's like you're He-Man. It's like muscle have returned and your strength has returned, and it's like you're eating better, and it's crazy. It's weird how much your body really just
Yeah.
fluctuates.
that sucks.
I mean, it does.
It sucks.
It
like I
does.
can't even lie
It
about
does.
it. I am more sensitive to it growing up too, like you said. Like, I'm a family man too, and it's like seeing your significant other or a family member. Like, I don't really think about it. I'm a guy, you know what I mean? But
Right.
like, you can tell without it even being said. Like the mood is different, and just no energy, like you said, and
Yeah.
and then turn around the next day and fine.
Yeah.
Like that.
It definitely takes a physical and mental toll on your body. And then with young girls, and they're just starting that stuff, they're trying to figure out, what's happening to me. And that's definitely hard to try and teach a young child or a young teenage lady, and also, deal with their emotions, because being a teenager and having emotions is hard in general.
So let me ask this then. So what kind of advice would you give a young lady who's doing martial arts, or another lady who's doing martial arts who's dealing with those things? What advice would you give her to kind of like deal with that while she's training? Like, do you take breaks? Should you go to your teacher, instructor, have a conversation? Like, what advice would you give?
I think it's great to let your instructor know, but at the same time, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable being a
Mhm.
girl telling a guy, "Hey, I'm on my period right now," you know? Um, I think it's a little easier talking to another woman about that.
Mhm.
But also, you know, I feel like, when especially when you're that young, if you can kinda, like, pay attention to your body and how you feel, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, because there'll be a few days typically, we're on our periods from anywhere from 5 to 7 days. So, 2 or 3 days, it might be a mental thing.
Mhm.
2 or 3 days, it might be a physical thing.
Mhm.
And just kinda figure out individually what you need as a person, like whether, "Hey, I just can't take you pushing me this week," or,
Mhm.
um, even maybe some of the girls talking to one of the older female students and be like, "Hey, can you let Sifu know that I don't wanna tell him I'm on my period, but just tell him I'm going through it or something."
Mhm.
'Cause it is hard being a girl and talking about that stuff.
No, yeah, I'm sure
Um
that's quite, uncomfortable.
It is. It is. I don't even like talking about it to you,
I always
but
hate hearing it as a guy. I'm like
yeah.
I don't want to hear that, but it's part of life.
It
It
It's part
is.
of
is.
life.
It
It
You know.
is.
is. And the more and again, I've learned just through, as I got older and really looking into my own body, the more I really just kind of pay attention to what I need physically and mentally. And, there are things that can help with like diet, that really can help with like replacing some of those minerals. But, the more you figure out how your body responds, the better you can do things like within martial arts or within your daily life just to let people know, hey, now's not the time.
So, what do you feel like as an instructor?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to individuals who are listening to this who maybe teach martial arts? And obviously, we may have young ladies or just ladies in general in our class. What is something that can help us be more aware and sensitive to these things that you're going through, so we can make sure that we're fitting in, or how should I say, that we're ensuring that your needs are being met?
Um, I think that's hard because, it is a boys' club, so there's not always a lot of girls around. But maybe having like, maybe, one week you could take the girls aside and, have like an older female instructor there or, from someone from the adult class and just be like, hey, we're just going to have a girls' day today. And we're going to talk about some of the issues that us girls face and deal with being in here just to make it better for you guys. And maybe that might just make them feel a little more comfortable, even if they don't want to tell you. Maybe they might come to me and I could be like, hey, so and so is having a little rough week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like there's an aspect of like, again, I'm a male and I know nothing about what it's like, but there's this aspect of, you know, you're still here, so you still want to train.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't want to let anything get in the way of your training. So part of, it's a fine line of like, okay, we don't want to do anything unnecessary to egg this person on,
Yeah.
Mhm.
but at the same time, we shouldn't have to slow down or stop training.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and I will say with that, I've learned, and this is just more so for as I've learned more about like menopause and my own body. During that week, it is so hard to do a lot of things
mm,
because we're physically drained,
yeah,
just physically. It's very hard. And the more you push us physically, the more our body just fights it, like
Mhm.
almost like a flu. When you get really sick with the flu, and the more you try to do, the worse you get because you're not letting your body take that recovery time. And those would be good times where, okay, you can't spar today, but you know what? Maybe you and so can go work on elbow strikes,
Mhm.
something that's a little lighter work. Because
Mhm.
yeah. See,
we,
that would make sense to me.
yeah, because we do have those days where we have light classes where we're not really doing a bunch of physical activity. Because that's one of the reasons why I don't like doing a lot of sparring when I'm on my period because a couple good hits in the tummy
Right.
region
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like I'm about ready to walk out that door.
I can see that being very painful and
It
uncomfortable.
is. And then, but it's easier to show up and be here when you know, okay, I can just do some light stuff today. Maybe work on my form, maybe elbows,
Mhm.
something that doesn't even involve that area. Um, or even just assisting, like watching other people train or helping so and so with Lamacho or
Right.
a form or something like
I
that.
think you're lenient to that, but there's still the point of if he doesn't know,
Yeah.
then you don't know.
And
Mhm.
So
that's the hardest thing. That is the hardest thing because girls do not like to, like, we talk as other girls, we
mhm.
talk to each other, but it's so hard to tell a male, "Hey, I'm on my period this week."
Right.
Not every girl is brave enough to say that.
Right.
Yeah.
But, giving them you can't make anybody tell you those things,
Mhm.
but setting aside time to say, "Hey, just so y'all know, this is an option. This is available for you. If you are going through that, let us know. Let one of the other girls know if you don't want to tell us."
And I think, and I'm sure Joe can agree with me. Like you said, yeah, sometimes a lot of martial arts schools can be boys' clubs.
Yeah.
And so it's our job as males to try to make the school as safe a space for everybody. That's, male, female,
Yeah. Everybody needs to learn to defend themselves or
kids, whatever your gender may be, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever, whoever you are, it needs to be a safe space for everybody. And I think for me, what has, sometimes happen is like some people maybe feel like martial arts schools aren't safe spaces, and some of them have not been.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest about it. Not every martial arts school is built the same way,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, every school can sometimes go through situations that, you know, oh man, that wasn't handled the right way, or this
Yeah.
person got offended, or I mean, heck, it's even happened here. Somebody gets offended over something, and now people think, oh well, that's the way that school is, or that's the way those people are, and
Yeah.
that's not true. I mean, things happen, unfortunately, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
as you learn and you grow, you learn to be more sensitive to the people who come to your school, the people who are in your community. And I'll tell you, I've learned more about acceptance teaching people, because you don't control who walks through your doors. You don't
Yeah.
Mhm.
control what the background
Or the
is
reason they're
or
here.
the reason they're here.
Yeah.
You have to be sensitive to all of that. But we're in a culture of just cancellation.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you do something, if you step the wrong way, everybody wants to cancel you. Everybody thinks you are, oh, you're the scum of the earth because you made a mistake. And that's not true. That's just being human.
You still
Yeah.
have to have a certain thick skin, like, things within reason. Don't let
Yeah.
everything offend you. Like if you let every action that other people do like affect you,
Yeah.
that's part of life, not even just martial arts, Focus more on what you can do,
Yeah.
So,
Eh,
like and the opposite side of that is like these schools, any kind of power or business can be abused too. You can
Exactly.
abuse power. So,
and unfortunately, you can't ever control how others act or perceive you.
yeah.
Like, you can try to do what you feel is best, and it's still going to offend somebody.
That's
It's still
right.
going to upset
You can't
somebody.
please everybody.
Exactly. And I know, like, I compare it a lot to raising kids. You can do everything right and then still, go out and make bad choices. You could do everything wrong and then still
They
make
grow up
good
to be a
choices.
superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that worked really good with me with my children as they got older was sitting them down and saying, "Hey, you know, you have to make choices for yourself and you have to do what feels right for you. But if you ever need to talk to me, I'm here.
Mhm.
I'm here. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it's about. I'm not going to get mad.
Mhm.
I can't say that I might not be sad or disappointed or upset,
Mhm.
but I'm always going to listen and I'm always going to, try to give you the best advice I can, whether you follow it or not. And sometimes just having that option to be like, okay, well, you're not going to get mad or you're not going to get upset or you are understanding makes them feel more at ease to be able to talk to you in different situations.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, you could have those doors open and people could just be too shelled up to be able to receive that type of, help.
Hmm.
Mm.
So, Joe, let me ask you this. So, we asked Bobby that question. So, we're gonna go from the male perspective. As a guy, do you feel there are certain aspects of training and they're easier for you to learn than maybe a woman, or are there other things that maybe you struggle with, or
To me, it comes down to the fact that she brought up the emotional thing. That was one that wasn't in my head, but the other things about like the physicality, like typically, this can be a touchy one, I know, but like typically, women are more flexible and men have more strength.
Yeah.
If we're coming in here and cranking out push-ups all day, usually a guy, not to say all women, like some
Yeah.
women are great at push-ups, but there's the muscle thing.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, it's typically like flexibility that would be harder. Now, the fact our previous conversation, I've never even think of that stuff because again, I'm a guy. But we all know that emotional control and just controlling yourself is a huge part of martial arts. So I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that I think a lot of guys are not even thinking about.
And let me tell you something too. This popped in my head because I've dealt with this more so recently than ever before. Most guys come to the martial arts school usually to, okay, we want to work out. We like sparring,
Right.
Most of us are not here because we've been assaulted,
Yeah.
attacked.
Right.
Somebody's made us feel less than, or we've been threatened.
That's very
We
true.
have a lot of young ladies that walk through those doors that they've experienced something like that, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And so their reasonings for training may be different
that's true. very true.
than us as males when we come through the door because we haven't experienced that.
Yep.
God forbid if you're the one doing something horrible like that, but just saying,
Yeah.
and so we've had a lot of young ladies that have come through, and I'm understanding more so now than ever before, making the school a very safe space for
Yeah.
everybody to come through and feel comfortable training.
Right.
So I just wanted to make that
Yeah.
comment.
Me and Bobby were just talking before we even
Yeah.
started the podcast. In your martial arts school, I feel like yours is, I feel like, but just one humble perspective. But any martial arts school should be inviting for anyone, all ages, any gender, race, whatever, because everybody's got their own reasons. But as we were just talking before, if someone is trying to attack you, they don't care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're attacking you. They're not thinking about, maybe they are attacking you because they were a woman or a man, like, or maybe you look weak, or maybe they, God forbid, maybe they are racist or something, But the truth is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is that you are, you go to your training, what you train. So that's why I was saying earlier, there's that aspect of like, sometimes it may come off as a guy's club, like, and I think some places it is, but sometimes it's just a matter of like, we just got to take it serious. We can accommodate, like schools can accommodate anybody, and you have to just communicate, your reasons for being there and everything. But it's like you can't change how you teach completely just for if someone's offended about something.
Well, and I'll tell you that it's interesting that you said that because, we've had some people who come through the doors who maybe get offended because, maybe I am treating everybody the same way.
Yeah.
The way I'll talk to you is maybe the same way I would talk to you, and I will push you the same way I will push you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like there's an equality there
Mm-hmm.
that people sometimes say that they want, but then sometimes when it happens, it's like, oh no, I kind of want preferential treatment because of X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I try not to be like that. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not going to treat you different just because, Joe over here is a guy, or I'm not going to treat Bobby different because, Bobby's a young lady and you're a guy. I mean, I'm going to be sensitive to Bobby's needs.
Of
I'm going to be
course.
sensitive to your needs, but
Right.
on a training level,
Yep.
you need to do more. You need to do more. Or
Right.
we all need to do more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly why I brought up the point of like, we're all here for everybody. Some people, some people may have been attacked before. Like you said, everybody's here for a different reason. Some may be competition, want to get into it, or just health, and then the main thing is that any martial art, I feel like first and foremost, usually is protect yourself,
Yeah.
defend yourself in case of a real situation, God forbid. And that's why I was saying that in a real situation, that person doesn't care about your
don't.
life story, your gender. They want to hurt you. That's
Yeah.
all they're thinking about.
People get attacked a lot because whoever's doing the attacking, they're going after you because they see weakness.
Yeah.
They see they're not going to attack somebody that looks like it's going to be difficult, that's going to put up a fight, that's going to be a struggle. They look for weakness. And I think people don't realize a lot of times that because you're a teacher and you watch all of us and you see how we train and you see where we lack, and that's where you choose to push us in certain levels. But your job is to push us because whatever the reason is, we come here, whether it's, I want to be a great fighter or I want to be able to protect myself against, someone outside. You have to push us, because if you don't push us, if you don't turn that heat up, then when it is go time, that training is going to go out the window.
That's you said it so well. That's all I've been trying to say is if they're not able to control their emotions when Sifu or whoever is like, do more, how are you going to control yourself or, handle yourself when such and such comes at you trying to kill you with a knife?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, do something bad to you.
Or you get in a ring like a Lei Tai ring and you're fighting somebody you've never met before and they go ham. They're not good. You can't stop the fight.
You're not thinking about your feelings then.
Yeah.
Right.
He's being too aggressive. They're going to be like, that's why you're here though.
That's right. That's right.
And then, unfortunately, if you are in a situation where somebody tries to rob you or worse, they're not going to stop because you break a nail or they're being mean. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to intimidate you and scare you so you don't fight back.
Yeah.
Predators go for people who show weakness.
Yep.
They don't want somebody that's going to fight back and give them a struggle. They're trying to do whatever they need to do the easiest way possible.
My chief used to say when they would train us for like watch or guard duty, that kind of thing, like the military thing, they say don't be an easy target.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
You're posted up against the wall, leaned up, like look, you're not even supposed to have your phone, but say you're looking at your phone or just twiddling your thumbs, you're an easy target.
Yep.
Somebody can walk right up in there and do what they want to do. And it's happened. But if you're standing there, you got your hands up, you're alert, you're looking around, you're standing tall, people, if somebody's scoping out, like they might not want to, they might want to go to the next one.
Yeah. I say the same thing with to the people I work with at work, because we have a lot of shoplifters. And, if somebody walks in and you're on your phone and, you're like, hey, how's it going? And you're not making eye contact and you're just paying attention to your Facebook or whatever, they're going to know, oh, okay, I can pocket this.
That's
I
an
can
easy
pocket
mark.
that. Yeah.
Right.
But if you're alert and, if you're like, hey, how's it going? And you make that eye contact and you, like my boss says all the time, the best way to deter a shoplifter is good customer service.
Yeah.
And if you don't have to be on their ass, but if you're just saying, hey, how's it going? Do you need help finding anything? The more you pay attention, the less they're going to feel safe to do something.
It's like you're being polite, you're doing customer service, but at the same time, like without saying it, I see you. I'm watching you.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
And
I know you're here. I'm aware of your presence.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people don't realize your job is to push us. Your job is to get us overwhelmed so that when a real life situation happens, we know how to handle it. And we're not going to be like, hold on, time out.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure we do what we need to do to survive.
That's right. There's no timeouts in those situations.
And I kind of don't want to get into it because I want to save it for another podcast, but you just recently had a situation at your job that is quite interesting that I would love to break down, but we'll save that for another day because, I think you learned a lot about yourself, martial arts, who you are as a person. I mean, it was so many things just from that clip of, I don't know, maybe a minute confrontation that you had with a shoplifter. But I mean, so much happened. and so much could have happened.
Yeah.
And thank God that it didn't. But, I felt like, without your martial arts training, you were able to pick up things during that situation that you go, oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
Or I need to pay attention to that. And so I'm happy that you're able to see those things, because I think before you started training, maybe you would have not picked up on those things before.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Well, and two, I think the first thing I did after, I rewatched the tape several times, and every time I'm like picking apart where I could have really got hurt, where I made mistakes, and the first thing I did, I messaged you and was like, I need to train harder. I need to train more.
Yeah, she actually did do that.
Like there were so many mistakes made where I could have got really hurt. And I know you taught me better. I know other people in the school have taught me better. And in that instance, even though I've been here for 2 years, most of my training just out the door, and that goes to show you that, if you're not pushed to learn these things and to commit them to memory, then in a situation like that, you're not going to pay attention.
And one thing I like to tell people, even the kids, is take it serious.
Yeah.
There's that aspect, because as you've said before, some people, they go out and they do hobbies, and some people treat this as a hobby in a social environment to meet people. They're still learning, don't get me wrong, but they're not as like, they're here getting it, breaking a sweat for their health. But some people are here like, when I walk out that door, what if this happens? You gotta have a certain seriousness to your training.
Even if you are just here to have fun, you never know when you might just be going to the gas station for a candy bar and somebody tries to rob you.
Right. That's right. And that could be woman, man, again, anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody.
So Joe, do you feel like, as a guy, being in the boys club, how does that make you feel when you have a majority of guys in class and maybe you don't see as many ladies? Is that something you ever think about? Is that something you go, because I know for me personally, from a teacher standpoint, I have a lot of people that love to tell me, I'm just going to get into it, this whole man bear argument thing. Okay. Would you rather, I'd rather be with the bear than with the man, because I don't know what the man's going to do. Okay, I get it. All right. I don't know what you've been through. Hey, you've dealt with some strange guys. However, there are things now, I feel like, in the community, such as a good martial arts school that you can go to where you can learn good self-protection skills, but there's not a lot of ladies that come to the school. And it's like, well, is it because we don't have a safe space? Because they just see a lot of guys? Like,
it's probably a better thing. Like, this is just my take, but I don't know how it would be from outside looking in from a woman's perspective. Like, I don't think that much about it. Maybe it is because I'm a man, but I don't know. I just think I want to get into martial arts to protect myself. Now, that's the other thing. There's a place nearby that is actually, I think, ran by a woman, a self-defense place. But you typically don't see that as much. Usually it's ran by a male. Or if it's, a lot of them are doing competitions and stuff, like, typically from what I've seen, it's usually a male. So maybe that has something to do with why you don't see as many, because maybe they, without even knowing anything, just outside looking in, it's a boys club. They're fighting competitions, like,
it's that stigmata of violence,
uninviting, maybe.
Yeah, I think a lot of people outside looking in, you look at martial arts and you look at any type of martial arts and you think, oh, violence, violence, fighting.
Yep.
That's a male toxic thing, because all men are toxic and violent, and it's not true. I think a lot of the reason I chose this school over anywhere else is because y'all made me feel like comfortable, like family, like it wasn't militant, and it wasn't, like just some guy yelling and screaming at you. It was, it felt like a family. It felt comfortable. It made me let my guard down a lot. And I think that's a big stigmata on martial arts in general is people just think, oh, it's violence.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stuff we learn, sure, you can use it to protect yourself, but some of those forms are beautiful. And unless you know what the application is, you wouldn't think anything of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, I really, because I've dealt with that a lot this year in 2024, where we've had people, you know, I've been called, I have toxic masculinity. What else? Oh, yes, we've been told our school is not a safe space for young ladies, which is false.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in fact, I think one thing that we do well, and you know, I really try to encourage is if you're a young lady, you probably need to be in martial arts.
Oh, absolutely.
You need some martial arts training.
I'd say so.
Mhm.
You know,
I think
Yeah.
everybody
Right.
needs martial arts training,
Yeah.
Right.
but particularly a young lady, because I'm telling you right now, and you know, and I tell the teenage girls this, you know, you're more apt to probably be a target.
Absolutely.
But just because you're male doesn't mean somebody won't attack you.
Yeah.
True.
However, if you, you know, if
That's not masculinity or toxic masculinity talking. That's facts.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is facts, but
And that's the way it
Oh,
is, you know?
but we're in a society nowadays that we much rather complain than do something about our issues.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, too, people don't realize that when men get attacked, it's usually drunken bar fights, it's egos involved. It's not, hey, I'm going to try to rob that person. You know, more women, because we typically have smaller frames, we have smaller, you know, like musculature, we don't have the strength of guys. It's easier for us to be a target. And typically, you know, with women out in public, they're carrying the big pocketbooks
Or children.
yes. And, you know, if you're distracted by 5 things, it's easy as hell for me to run up and take your purse and go,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And when you put up a fight, and that's one thing where I think martial arts is even better than just self-protection training, because yes, in self-protection, you can learn how to get away from somebody that's trying to choke you or trying to grab you. But what are you going to do if they come back after you?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do if they don't stop? Just because you get out once, what if they can run faster than you?
Mm-hmm.
Hell, probably every guy in the school can probably run faster than me. You know, just because I can get away doesn't mean the attack is going to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think that's one thing when it's, you know, the man versus bear, like whole thing. I'll take a man over a bear any day. A bear those animals are huge. They are massive. They are dense. They have claws. They have teeth. They will rip you to shreds when they feel threatened. And with a man, I've fought a man before. I've fought for my life from a man before who was easily 300 pounds. And, you know, I got away. I've got away a couple of times. And I have better chance with a man than I ever would a wild animal, because a wild animal is going to go back to natural instinct. Whereas you hurt a man enough, he's going to stop.
You just made a great point.
Mm.
You made a great point. Again, one of those things that kind of doesn't matter who you are, what you are.
Yeah.
You kind of have a choice when those things happen. And
Mhm.
some people make the choice of, oh, we're in peaceful times, I'm not going to learn to fight. Well, what
Mhm.
happens when you have no other choice? Are you going to roll over?
Yeah.
So you just got to make that choice. Like, and
Yeah.
me, I want to survive. I want to live. So I'm going to learn to increase my chances as much as I can.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a warrior in a garden or a gardener in a war?
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, let me, you know, say this.
Hopefully peaceful times. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be ready when it's not peaceful.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, my one reason, you know, martial arts training should be done for everybody, you know, even if you don't stick with it. If you have martial training, it really does change your mindset,
Mm-hmm.
make you think about things differently.
Mhm.
And like I said, you don't know when you're going to need it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Don't ever think things can't happen to you.
exactly.
She could tell you that. She
Yeah.
could say that better than either.
This
of
just
us.
happened to you
Right.
at your job.
Yeah. Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, it just happened Saturday. This
Right.
happened Saturday.
Yeah.
And you know, and we've talked about this on previous podcasts, we were attacked here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And you've been in confrontation. So everybody in this table has had, in some way, shape, or form, either been attacked, been accosted, had to use their martial arts in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not the type of people that go looking for trouble.
No, a lot of time it's it's
Right.
here.
And,
It's how to stop a situation.
That's something I was actually just thinking about as you're talking. Is sometimes learning martial arts isn't always just a learning about how to fight. It's how to assess situations.
Yeah.
Bingo. You're
Like-
It's
right.
huge. It's
Yes,
huge. It's
'cause-
everything.
Before I started coming here, I didn't look at certain things like where are my exits if something goes down,
Mm-hmm.
who looks like a threat in the building.
Yeah.
You
That's
become
huge,
more
yeah.
situationally aware.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, the reason they get attacked is because, they're face down in a phone.
Right.
They're not paying attention to their surroundings,
Right.
Yep.
And the more you're situationally aware, the more you can protect yourself from being in dangerous situations.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome that you
Yeah.
say that, know that, learning that. That's
yeah.
huge.
Oh,
That's something that a lot of people, I think, outside looking in, regardless of gender, everything,
Oh,
like
yeah.
should learn and listen to. It's
Yeah.
not just the fighting and violence. It's
Absolutely.
a lot of it's your mentality and just looking out for these things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you this. So, and Joe can probably attest to this, but I know I've experienced this. Probably more so as a guy than as a lady in the martial arts. What we deal with a lot of times, or at least I have dealt with it, I don't know if you've dealt with it yet, is that we may be having a conversation about something, and I'm speaking to somebody, and they ask me what I do. I'm like, oh, I do martial arts. A lot of guys, you know what that incites? Challenge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That ego.
Yeah.
The ego pops up now.
Yeah.
Oh, you think you can beat
Oh,
me?
you can
Right.
martial
What?
arts.
Like, man,
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. You just asked me what
Right.
I did. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
It's
trying to fight you.
it hasn't happened a lot. I've not been training near as long as you, but like for a couple of years now, I actually say like I
Mhm.
do practice. I'm a martial artist. I practice, and like couple times, it's usually friends. It's not been some random stranger
Well,
who's
show
like,
me
"Oh,"
something,
right?
man.
Like usually it's been a friend who's just like, actually, now that you say that, a couple of weeks ago, good friend of mine, known him a long time. We never actually got in a fight, but we got pretty close once or twice. But he was like, I'm gonna like come at you, and just show me what you would do. I was like, whatever. Like, come on.
It's so weird because it's like as a guy, like, why do we do that?
We
It's an
not
ego
to go
thing.
yeah, not to go too
It
deep
is.
into
Thing.
that story, but he's thinking more about it because he has a certain family member
Mm.
who is a threat. So he's thinking more about that stuff.
Yeah.
And he knows me that now I've been actually training how to fight for a while now. He was asking me kind of about it. That's where that
Yeah.
kind of spawned. It wasn't just the guy thing. It's like he's got something going on. And trust me, the guy he's talking about ain't the guy you'd really want to scrap with if you could help it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
I think
hopefully it's all peaceful, but
I think with girls, it's really weird, because I have, instead of just have like y'all, I can see y'all have that ego boost. I get that from certain girls, like those very like insecure, loud, dramatic women. Like I had one that I used to work with, and she always liked to tell these dramatic stories of what mom in the carpool she had to beat up this week.
What?
And yeah, she was
Oh,
a
man.
talker. And I would notice that when she would tell me these stories, she would try to sort of bucket me. And yeah, and I think she was almost in a
man.
way trying to get me to make a move or to do something or, shy away or something, because the more I'd stand there and just kind of look her up and down, the more she would back away. And, so you do have that ego in certain insecure women who think they're, tough shit, because I've fought plenty of girls in my neighborhood, and it's like, okay.
right.
And they want to test that. They want to test that in you because it's like a macho thing. And then you have other girls who are like, well, I know if something happens, I'm hiding behind you. why don't you just
Oh, the
learn to-"
opposite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, why don't
Or
you?
help me.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens when I go down?
Yes.
You know.
Exactly right.
Yes. What happens if I go down?
Yeah.
Help
Then what?
me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We're stronger together.
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
absolutely. And then from guys, the guys is the weird one. Most guys are really like, oh, well, that's cool. But then you have those guys that it's a turn on for them. And they're like,
Ooh.
oh, I want you to slap me. And it's like, I don't want to do that. Like it's really weird, especially back when I first started here and I was in the dating scene and you would meet guys and they're like, oh, they ask you what you do outside of work or whatever. And it's like, oh, I like martial arts and da da da. And they're like, oh, you want to slap me around? No, I don't want to do that. I'm like, oh, you don't want to slap me? No, sir, I don't. Are you a
See,
threat? Are you threatening me?
Females deal with things that we don't deal with.
They do.
It's
That's-
wild.
I'll tell you one thing as a
Mm.
guy, and I'm sure people listening here who've done martial arts for years can deal with, or not deal with, but they have dealt with, is that as a man, when you go into a martial arts school, and depending on what school you go to, gym, whatever, you are dealing with somebody sometimes in that school that may have a big ego.
Yeah.
And men naturally have it's a pecking order.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the guy on top right there.
Yep.
And then normally, guess what people are always trying to do? I want to knock that guy off.
Yeah.
I want to be the top.
He's the
dog.
one to beat.
He's the one to beat. I want to
You
beat.
want to be number one. You got to beat number one.
You got to beat. Yeah, you want to beat a man. You got to beat. The man.
That's right. That's right.
know?
I wonder if that's almost a subconscious thing going back to cancel culture is when they see somebody that exudes that integrity and that strength that
People are jealous.
yeah, they're jealous
Yeah.
and it's like they see something in you that they wish they had. So now I'm going to knock you down. I'm going to cancel you because I don't like
I think you're
that
right.
you challenged
I think that's
me.
part of it.
That's
Yeah.
a good way to think about it.
I think that's
you
part
know,
of it.
you know, and as a guy in a martial arts school, I'll tell you this from a teacher perspective, because it can be very hard depending on who you are as a person. You have to make sure that you have the confidence to have control
Oh, yeah.
in a situation where people are coming here to learn life skills, but you're teaching them violence.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. You're usually teaching them some kind of violent skill.
Yep.
And you have to be very aware of who you're teaching and how you're teaching them, because the last thing you want to do is teach the next Jeffrey Dahmer
That's
Yeah.
right.
how to do something crazy, or you teach a bully
That'd be awful.
how to beat people up. Right. And, you're thinking about, that is why, particularly myself as a teacher, I don't know how other teachers are. That is why I am such a big proponent of character.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Your moral compass is.
Absolutely.
We talked about this in a previous podcast. It
Yeah.
should be part of your martial arts.
I think it
feel
should
like.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it should be.
Right.
But unfortunately, you have a lot more gyms nowadays where they don't, and maybe moral compass is not important. What you can do is more important.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
character goes
Winning.
out the window, right? Winning
Making
or
money.
making money,
Whatever.
whatever it is,
How much you can pay them.
right?
Yeah.
And so now, forget about moral compass.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do as long as you're winning them fights.
Right.
I think that's what a lot of people don't realize either with martial arts. We're not just training physically.
Mhm.
There's a whole mental aspect to it. There's that martial mentality.
Yeah.
That yes, you can do a lot of stuff. You could hurt somebody, but you have to know how to control that in your head. You can't just lash out at people, and the more training you do, the more powerful you become, the more or the harder you have to work not to unleash that until it is absolutely necessary.
Mhm.
And I think people just look at it like, oh, you're just violent. You're violent all the time. But y'all don't just teach physicality, it's mentality and how you use these things and how you act and your integrity as a person, that moral compass.
Yeah.
And people don't realize how much truly does go into martial arts.
Right. When I don't think I'm straying from the topic. A minute ago, when we were talking about inviting challenge, right?
Mm.
Like, I have a family member who's a female, who a little bit younger, and coming out of like a kind of a rough patch, right? But said she was interested in working out and everything, and so we worked out, I was like, no problem. She knows I work out and everything. It's a big part of my life. So we worked out, and while we worked out, I was like, part of our workout, we're gonna we're gonna hit some pads, that kind of stuff. And so I was going over some basic, like how to throw a punch good, that kind of thing. And at the end, she kind of asked me like, do you feel like there's rules in a fight, like a real fight? Almost like taking a stab, but I was like in a real fight, absolutely not. Your rules to survive and
Yeah.
minimal damage, right? Like,
All the rules
but
go
I
out the window.
was trying to explain to her, like, you don't think these people know that?
Mhm.
Right.
This is their life.
Yeah.
Of course they know that. Like, so, that may be another thing is I used to put people on a pedestal. I used to think they knew everything. And some people, I feel like, take a look at people and think before they even walk through the door and meet somebody, they're just like, doesn't work.
Yeah.
They don't know anything, but
Right.
And
I've had that too, where people have come in here and have incited challenge.
Mhm.
And as an instructor, it's very ticky tack on how you deal with that. But we'll talk about that after commercial break. Guys, we got to pay the bills. We'll be right back. Hey, guys. And so this is our PSA. We want to encourage anybody who's listening, anybody who may have contact with this podcast. If you're feeling like you need self-protection skills, if you feel that you just need more confidence, if you feel like you need a community of people to just maybe socialize with, maybe you're being bullied, find a good martial arts school. And if you need help finding a martial arts school, we will help you. We do not mind doing that. So we want to make sure that, everybody who listens to Martial Mentality can gain something from this. And so we want to encourage everybody out there that martial arts can be a great activity, not only physically, but mentally and spiritually for people as well. So guys, can you maybe, talk about maybe how martial arts has helped each one of you on your journey as we try to, encourage people to maybe take up the arts?
I will definitely say, as a woman who came from a very abusive background, not only has it helped me physically to feel like I can better protect myself when challenges do arise, but mentally, it has helped me to overcome a lot of residual trauma as a mother. If you're worried about your kids, if you have young daughters or even sons that may be getting bullied, it's really great teaching them like early life skills of not just how to protect themselves, but how to carry themselves with better mentality and integrity going forward.
If for one, you're just trying to toughen yourself up, martial arts is a great thing. One of the biggest things in martial arts is just how to assess a situation and what to do, how to increase your odds of not getting hurt.
And so, guys, we want to encourage all of you, find you a good martial arts school. If you're in the Rock Hill community, come to the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu here at 2354B/A Ebenezer Road, Rock Hill, South Carolina. If you're not in our area, once again, listen, we can help find you a school, find you a good instructor. But otherwise than that, do what you need to do to make sure that you are getting the most benefit for yourself out of your life.
And we are back. And this time, I'm going to be asking the question.
Okay. All right, Joe.
So, Sifu.
Yes, sir.
As a teacher, do you find there are differences in training men versus women?
Yes. Let's start with training young ladies. I feel like training young ladies, as we talked about earlier, can be very difficult depending on where this individual may be in their life, past experiences and things of that nature. And I think one thing that I've learned about teaching young ladies is a lot of young ladies have come into our school and are very guarded. They see a lot of guys, and they may see a few young ladies like Bobby and Dola and some of the other, Devia, so it's not like there's not ladies around, but there's not a lot of them.
Right.
And so what I've seen is they tend to flock towards the young ladies and not towards the guys. Even though we're not doing anything to try to like hurt anybody, but that's what I have seen just with my eyes. And so, my goal as an instructor is to try to make that person feel safe and feel welcome, and to teach them, like I would teach anybody else, But I also have to understand that, like we talked about earlier, maybe this person has been assaulted.
Right.
Something maybe has happened in their past. I don't know why they're here,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we've had a lot of young ladies come through the doors where they tell me stories like, "Oh no, this happened to me," or I've experienced this, and so
Right.
now it makes me have to think about how that training needs to be more real for them, as opposed to on the flip side, you may have a young man that comes through the doors, and a lot of times what that young man may be dealing with, depending on not just a young man, an older guy, depending on where they are in their life, you may be dealing with a young boy that's being bullied, or maybe even, this has come up more often now. You have individuals that are dealing with things like their sexuality.
Mm.
How are they feeling about that? And they're being picked on about that, or they feel
Yeah.
threatened by other people because maybe they feel different, or
Right.
maybe they're, I'm not like these other guys. So, and so they feel like
That's
a
right.
target.
Yep. And I think a lot of these kids, you said, different backgrounds, different upbringing, and some of these kids, may not have like, you know, I'm not necessarily talking about anyone specific. I'm just saying some may not have like the father figure or the
Yeah.
mother figure,
Yep.
or who knows how
Yep.
they're raised and what they've been
Yeah.
through.
Yep.
And I think sometimes even if it's like a female, or necessarily female or male, but like say it's a female who's had that kind of thing, had like abuse or something,
Yeah.
if they don't tell you, martial arts is so a lot of days it's hands on. You're not going
Yeah.
to learn anything unless we're pushing each other, showing you how to
Mhm.
do a technique. So you have to accommodate, that would be the word, and understand.
And there's a book, geez, I forgot the name of it, but it may just be teaching women in the martial arts. I'm sure I can't remember what it is, but and it talks about that. And there are some things in that book that I learned that I'll share. And one thing that the things that you say, so like let's say if we're stretching, and maybe we're going on a leg stretch, and you go, okay, well, spread your legs. Well, that may be traumatic for somebody,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and you don't think about something like that.
Right.
But then when you read this book, it goes into, okay, this is why maybe you shouldn't say certain things. So now it's like, okay, all right, maybe I may say something else, that's not as offensive. Because you don't
Right.
think that's offensive.
Right.
You may not think that's offensive, but it can be. It may be traumatic. Or maybe even like touching a person.
Yeah. It all depends. Yeah, you never truly know. When I told you, so when I lost my mother, um, I was in the military and I came home for leave or whatever. And when I came back, I had a couple roommates, and not all of them, I think, even knew why I went on emergency leave or whatever. But when I come back, like, we're just in there talking, and the first thing one of the guys says as a joke is, I said something, and he said, "Your mom," and I just kind of like gave him a look, like not mean, but it was like he didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's exactly your point. You don't ever really know what people are going through or what they've been through. I
Right.
didn't flip out or anything, but like I could easily see how I could have.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and especially like with the grabs and stuff, like you're talking about, if you
Exactly.
grab somebody like this, like
Mhm.
a lot of times, if somebody's been through abuse, something like that probably happened.
Could be traumatic. And so
Yeah.
you have to be careful. So, maybe depending on who, no, it doesn't matter who you're dealing with, but, you have to be conscientious of that. Hey, can I use you for an example? Or, I'm going to grab your shirt. Is that okay?
Mhm.
I'm going to grab your
Right.
wrist. Is this okay?
Right.
If you're not feeling comfortable about this, you can go sit down or
Observe.
observe or stay out of this drill. Like you have to be more aware of that people are experiencing
I think,
trauma.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think too, though, on the flip side of that, as the person who is learning and being taught by you, I think there has to be a certain level of sensitivity you have to overcome.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is dealing with your trauma and working through that. Because, there was a lot of stuff when I came here that I was super uncomfortable with. And as silly as it sounds, when I'm struggling at something and y'all would all gather around and be cheering me on, that was uncomfortable for me. I hated that. I couldn't stand it. But it was because it took me a while to realize that I didn't have a lot of male role models in my life that would cheer me on, that actually cared about me
Mm,
to do better, that weren't just trying to get something out of me.
yeah.
And I think, with being here, you learn to be less triggered in a way, and it helps heal those things that are bothersome to you, because some person that's out in the street that's going to attack you is not going to come up and say, I'm going to spread your legs.
Yeah.
And through this and through people being gentle with you like that, it helps you to almost overcome those triggers and those
Mhm.
things that bother you.
That's a great
Yeah.
point. It's if they showed up, chances are they're wanting to learn so that doesn't happen again,
Yeah.
or they know what to do. So if it is traumatic, like they don't come through the door and you grab them and say dodge this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But if they don't want to do it the first time, that's okay. But they should work their way up to it. Like you said,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Because on some level, you have to realize that, you know, it's like with, sparring, y'all say we're never going to give you more than what you can handle.
Yeah.
But if you amp up, we're going to amp up because we want you to, elevate yourself. So at some point, you have to say to yourself, am I always going to run away, or am I going to stand up and fight?
That's
Mhm.
right.
And you have to put some of that sensitivity aside, especially when you have someone who's so nice and who's trying to work with you and say, hey,
Yep.
I'm only going to push you as far as you're comfortable with. And then you have to realize, you have to take the accountability for yourself to say, okay, I need to go harder.
That's right.
And I think too, that there have been some people who've tried to come through the doors and they try to tell you as the instructor of how you are going to teach them.
Mm.
And in some respects, while I understand that you may have your different needs and things of that nature that I need to be sensitive to, I also understand as a martial arts teacher, there are certain things that you're going to have to do if you want to do this well.
Yeah.
And the big one that a lot of people don't normally like to do, and this is sometimes particularly more so on the ladies' side, depending on who they are, is they don't like the sparring.
Mm.
Yeah.
They'll do the forms all day. They'll probably do all the self-protection drills that, all the conditioning. But then when it's time to like put on some gloves and say, okay, we're going to punch and kick each other.
And we don't discriminate.
And
Yeah.
that's right.
No.
We're not discriminating because
Right.
guess what? You need to.
E for everyone.
Yeah. You have to learn how to do this. And then you get a lot of people, because I've had a lot of people be like, oh, well, you need a women's only class. Well, who are you most likely fighting? Are you normally fighting other ladies?
Right.
Mm-mm.
Probably
Yeah.
not. And even as a guy, if you don't think a young woman or a lady won't attack you, you're wrong.
I was
Yeah.
I was raised that way. You don't hit a woman. But listen, if a woman's like threatening my life or somebody I care about, like, or whatever, strikes
Yeah.
me or pulls a knife out, pulls a whatever, you think I'm not gonna hit her?
You better do
I
something.
better.
You
I better.
or you will
Yeah.
die.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
so you have to, as an instructor, at least my opinion, you have to have your training be equal for everybody in some respects.
Yep.
I think what people don't realize too is when you first get in there and spar, y'all aren't going to come out the gate swinging, beating our heads in. Like,
right.
I can't tell you how many times I've sparred you and you're kind of like taunting me a little bit to get me to make a move, but you're not coming at me. You're not trying to hurt me. You're not like overwhelming me. And if I drop my hand, you might check me and let me know.
Yeah.
But like, even with some of the other older students in class, it's the same. They're not just beating
Yeah.
me down,
Sparring is learning.
Yes.
It
It's
should
not a
be.
fight.
Yes.
Right.
And
Right.
a lot of them, especially, the older students and y'all have been training so long that y'all know how to control your power and you know how to tap somebody or kick somebody without hurting them. And not to mention, we typically have helmets, we have
Yeah.
gloves, we have pads.
It's you hit them hard enough to know they're probably making a mistake,
Yes.
but not
Yeah.
knocking them out.
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
like-
And the more you train, the more you learn, the better you get.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, and and it's funny because I changed my mindset on that whole aspect to actually talking to you. Cause you're like, no, as a young lady, I need to be sparring with the guys. Cause
Yeah.
that's probably who I'm
Older
gonna be
lady.
dealing with.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh yeah,
right.
because it's a very rare chance that I'm gonna go out this door and be attacked by a woman. It's very rare.
Yeah.
I have a much larger chance getting attacked by a man. It has literally happened to me.
Yeah.
And I don't if I'm all I'm doing is sparring the girls, I'm not
You're training for sport.
Yes, I'm
Yes,
I'm
that's
literally
true.
training for
Yep.
sport. I'm training for fun. I'm just
Yep.
having a little tussle. It's
Right.
not a real life situation. If I am not training against people who are bigger and stronger and more skilled than me, then
That's a good
how
point.
am I going to survive out
That
there?
goes for anyone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That goes for anyone. If you're always training with people that are less like
At your level
inexperienced,
or below.
below.
Yeah.
then you're not necessarily like you can get better, but like
Mhm.
I've told you this before. There's always, no matter how much ego you have or how well trained you are, there's always a level of intimidation. It's like
Yeah.
you just said it. There's that pecking order thing. It's like
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel confident, even if you don't say it out loud, with such and such, such and such, such. But this one, wouldn't want to fight him.
Mhm.
And that's another thing I love about training with mostly men, because it, in a way, when we go to a competition and I'm going against women, I'm like, I've been fighting dudes. Like, I ain't afraid of you, little girl.
Right.
Like, it makes me more confident in my ability and my skill, because I'm used to getting knocked around by people who are twice, if not 3 times the size of a lot of these ladies that are in martial arts. So if I can hold my own against someone that's twice my size, I'm good. I know that when I go out there to that competition, I'm going to do a little better. I'm going to be a little stronger. They're going to
Yep.
be scared of me. And then once I get in the real world and someone tries to attack me, it doesn't matter if you're bigger than me. I fight dudes
Yeah.
bigger than me.
You're gonna fight back.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep. You're not gonna let
exactly.
them roll over you.
Or
you know.
cower.
I'll
Right,
say this,
exactly.
and once
Yep.
again, I'll bring
Yeah.
up what we were talking about earlier about your situation that you have.
Yeah.
But one thing that I saw in the video that you shared with me, you actually really threatened that guy. More so,
Yeah.
and I think that's why what made him, like we were talking, on break, it made him go, oh snap, I need this woman, like,
Do something.
I better do
Yeah.
something right, because now it was on the reverse end. It was like, oh no, I'm not scared of you. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay. Well,
I need to retaliate.
I need to retaliate because
Yeah.
I'm feeling threatened. I'm scared. I was the one who was in the wrong per se. I was the one who was technically trying to do something to to steal or offend or do whatever to
Yeah.
cost you, and then you reversed it on him, and he got afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why,
Mm.
I work in an area that's, a pretty sketchy area. And that's why a lot of the people, when they'll walk by that window and they look in and see me and they just keep walking, because they know that I'm not afraid. I'm not going to back down to him, and I'm not going to be like, oh no, and
Yeah.
they don't want that trouble. They don't want that fight. They want to steal or shoplift the easiest,
Easy.
smoothest way possible.
right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of corporate companies tell their employees, just let them walk out the door. Just let them, don't stop them.
Mhm.
And that teaches them constantly.
I had a job that way.
Yeah. And that teaches them that they can just do it, that no one's going to
That's
stop
right.
them.
Yep.
And unfortunately, in most states, you can steal up to, I think it's $900 to $1,000.
It's usually corporate places, but like, what
Mhm.
happens to the mom and pop shop who
That's
You know what I
that's
mean?
it. And
you
that's what I
this
work
is your
for.
livelihood. Yeah. Right.
And I work for a mom and pop shop.
yeah.
And it's like, people don't realize how much money you know, and how much time it takes away from those small businesses when we have to go into court. Because even
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they do get caught sometimes and they go in there, if it's less than $900 to $1,000, it's like, okay, well, you have to pay for this and you can go. And even if they can't pay for it, it's like, okay, well, if you don't pay by this day, we'll come on back. They don't do anything to them. There's
Yeah.
so many. The day I sat in court, there were so many people with repeat offenders that already had to be in court for multiple shoplifting
Yeah.
cases. And I'm just like, at what point are y'all going to help people? At what point are y'all going to put somebody in jail?
Mhm.
Because that's why
And if
these
you're the
people keep
ones
doing it.
trying to like sue the person, you've got to pay those fees.
Yeah, absolutely.
That person doesn't necessarily like they can pay to get a lawyer or whatever, but they don't have to.
Most of the time it's public defenders.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, especially like me who's paid hourly and I have to take time out of my job and I miss time at work.
Yep.
I only get paid for the few hours I'm in court.
Yep.
So I'm missing 5 to 6 hours off my regular paycheck.
Yep.
So now not only am I out of money, our store's out of money, and who knows if this person will show up again.
And get smacked on the
Yeah,
wrist.
so that's what it is.
Yep.
And then when they come up against somebody who's not afraid to be like, nah, this ain't gonna be easy. You know,
Right.
if you want to shoplift, you got 2 choices. You got to put my shit down or get out the door, get
Mhm.
past me.
Yep.
Which it's
So don't shoplift.
at
As
least
you
not at my
see,
store.
that hurts people. Stop shoplifting.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Don't shoplift. It's
For
bad.
real.
but that's why.
steal.
Yeah, that's why a lot of them don't mess with me because they know it's gonna be a struggle.
Yeah.
They're like,
There's a lot of metaphors in martial arts work, like, but it's a life thing, but you work
Mhm.
for what you earn.
yeah,
You
Mhm.
know, like don't
Yeah.
don't look for handouts.
Yeah.
It usually don't work out good.
It
I
doesn't.
don't.
It doesn't. So, Joe, Bobby, you got any other questions for me before we get ready to wrap this thing up?
Do you think there's a difference when teaching teenagers versus smaller kids and boys and girls?
Oh yeah, definitely. I like teaching teens and kids, of course, but I really like teaching teens because teens are big enough for you to like throw around
Yeah.
and kind of beat up on.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have an ego issue.
Yeah. Teens do for
Yeah,
sure.
they
A
do.
lot of them have an ego issue, and so
Yeah.
you have to like really humble them. And so
They're at that stage where it's like they're growing up. There's all ranges, right? You get 13 to like 8,
Right.
17, right?
Right.
So like that's a huge difference
right.
versus like 20 to 30 or 30, 40. It's like, they're still pretty much adults, right?
Mhm.
But like that range, it's like they're growing into that age where they still got a lot to learn and we
Mhm.
could put them in check.
Right.
And some of them are at that age where they're starting to develop like some of that power. Like,
You're right.
and
Mhm.
we want to show you what it would be like to fight an adult,
Exactly. And so you have to be conscientious where you're like, hey, it's kind of like your dad and your mom. Like, oh, you're smelling yourself, huh? Okay. Let me show you why I'm father
That's
or
right.
mama
That's right.
or granddaddy,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think, with the teenagers, you can be a little bit more realistic with them. You can start talking to them about some of the realities of life.
Right.
And, a lot of them, I try to like incorporate it with their environment that they're in, like school.
Mm.
Yeah.
So a lot of the self-protection things that we'll talk about sometimes can be school related
Mm.
because the chances of them being attacked out in the community, it can happen, but
School is like,
school is a big part of their life.
Yeah.
can be likely, like at some point,
Right.
Yeah.
even if it's not a fight, like some kind of altercation.
Right. Well, we've had students here getting altercations in school,
Yeah.
and for various reasons. So, like a lot of my self-protection, scenarios and skill training is kind of geared toward that. But with the small kids and Bobby and Joe, you guys have kind of experienced that. You're mainly trying to teach them more or less, especially this generation of children, how to listen,
Yeah.
how to be disciplined,
Yeah.
how to persevere through things that are difficult.
That's right.
How to, do a skill, how to earn something,
Yeah.
And so with the small children, they tend to, a lot of that can definitely be based on their background. Cause I've had some kids come in here who've just been spoiled brats. But then I've had some kids come in here who've been very disciplined and very, good. And so you teach them all the same, you love them all the same, and you, like we were talking about before, you try to cater to everybody, but there's a certain line where it's just equal across the board.
Mhm.
You're gonna do this.
Yep.
For example, today, right? We're in kids class. Joe knows this, I always give them a time limit.
Yeah.
You have exactly this amount of time to do this. If you don't do it, this is what's gonna happen.
Mhm.
You don't do it, this happens. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, you didn't do it, guess what? Boom. There's your baseline right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I think teaching both is encouraging. And I think unfortunately, when you have a lot of martial arts schools, particularly kung fu schools, they don't like teaching small kids
Mm.
because it's hard to teach them some of the skills associated with kung fu because it's complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm getting the experience more than just my kids, but helping out with like the others. But like, I've never actually coached any kind of sport outside. But I remember I had a friend who was coaching, and his son's the same age as my son, right? He was coaching them basketball, and I was interested, and I still am. Like, I'd like to do it now. I think after just being here and helping with the kids, I understand more. But my head went to like, I don't think I'm prepared. I don't know all the rules, and
Yeah.
like XYZ, but these kids can't even dribble yet. You know what I'm saying? You're not necessarily teaching them how to play NBA basketball.
Exactly.
You're teaching them like teamwork,
Teamwork,
and
right,
perseverance.
right.
Yeah.
So now I know
Sticking
that.
through
you
it,
know?
yeah.
Right.
It's
Right.
true. It was intimidating when you ask us to help sometimes, but then it's like you said, you realize that you're just teaching them the basics or the fundamentals. And
Yeah.
there was one class where it was cute. I can't remember her name, but it was a little girl, and she kept getting to where she was crying every time she got done doing something. And I'm just like, hey, what's going on? She's like, I don't know why I'm crying. And I'm like, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And one of our other adults here, John, was like, saw her crying and was just like, hey, just keep punching. Just keep punching. Your turn's over, but keep going, keep going. And it's like you said
Yeah.
before, get out of your head and into your body.
She started laughing.
She did. And
Yeah.
now when I see her come to class, she doesn't want to leave.
Mhm.
She loves it. She was hollering from the bathroom one day that she wanted to do her form again. It's just so adorable. And to see such a drastic change in her is just so adorable. It's
Right.
it's got to be one of them little rewarding moments to
Oh,
like
yeah.
see these kids really
Every
is.
day
grow.
I'm here, like with it's huge. Maybe like for one, I got a kid in it, but two,
Yeah.
is all of them. Seeing them progress is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like you said, seeing them grow
Mhm.
is really rewarding because
Yeah.
today, the kids were doing some sparring and it was like you were seeing some growth and you go, oh, you finally
They're
got
learning,
it. Or,
yep.
you see, one of our students got promoted today and it was like,
Yeah.
you finally did it. You got it. And he
Yep.
did it well. And it was like, he worked toward it. He earned something. And
Mhm.
hopefully that sticks with him for the rest of his life,
Right. Right.
because that's
a good
important.
thing. Yeah.
It's
he,
a good
he
thing.
worked for that.
Right, right. He earned that. And now that he's gotten it, it's like, now it's to teach them, okay, you got to keep it.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
Don't lose
There's no finish line.
That's right.
There's no finish line.
There's no,
As you often say, when you got your black belt, that was the start.
oh, it
right?
is. It's
So-
the beginning. It's
Right.
the beginning, And so, yeah, I like teaching kids. Kids are great. And from a business aspect, a lot of schools can benefit from teaching children
Mhm.
because, your kids' class can grow to be very financially lucrative for you.
Mhm.
Parents, they fork out the money for their kids.
They will.
It's like, I'm too old to do martial arts, but they need to.
They need it.
yeah.
Well,
Let me say this. Let me say this real quick. The children, what I've learned is you're planting a seed.
yeah.
You don't know how many people that I meet who come through this school that go, oh, I did martial arts when I was a kid. I don't remember who my instructor was, but I did such and such and such.
I wish I did it as a kid.
I do too.
You
I
know
wish
what I
I
mean?
was younger when I started, but
Right.
as with these kids, I want to plant a seed because you may not stick with this as you go into your teenage years, but I guarantee a good percentage of you will come back to the martial arts in some way, shape, or form because of something that we did now
Right.
that 20 years from now they go,
That's why I was saying I wish I did. I was mainly referring to my son. That's why I got him in so
Yeah.
early, is because I wish I had that when I was a kid.
That's why I joined so late, because that was one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of it was I was always jealous when I was younger because my two younger cousins, my uncle had a dojo for a while and he taught karate, but I always wanted to do that.
It's awesome.
And yeah, my dad would I don't know if it was just because my dad's brother got on his nerves or he just didn't want me in something like that, but I was always so jealous because his daughters got to learn karate.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah.
And that, and not just like that, but also, when kids are young, they soak up so
So
much.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's such a good way, especially being so young. Kids are rambunctious and
Yep.
they're wild. And it's a good way to slow them down and get them to start learning how to pay attention and how to listen and not just kick or punch. you
Yeah.
know?
Is interesting. I think one thing that we've done with this group of children is they have truly become respectful people.
Mm,
They really have.
yeah.
And it's funny because I like bantering with the children, because I'll play with the kids, but especially with the teenagers, because the
Mm.
teenagers are kind of like, they're starting to mature, so they're starting to
Yeah.
figure out some things. And so sometimes you can talk to them on a more adult level.
Mm.
And, I'll talk trash to them sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes
They
I'll just
need
like,
it.
Yeah, I'll talk
seen,
trash.
I've seen maybe a couple times, like a couple of the kids throw a little bit of a fit. Nothing too crazy,
Yeah.
but like kids and teens in this school, like out of the 2 years I've been here, I've like rarely or never seen like one go out of line, or like
Mm.
they're pretty respectful,
Yeah, they are.
which
They
is a
are.
good thing.
Yeah, it's something a lot of children and people in general lack nowadays.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I went to the gym the other day,
Yeah.
like this teenager, just walking behind me, and like I have to bleep it out or whatever, but he's like, "Could you get the fuck out the way?" Like just straight up said that. I like it didn't really necessarily make me. It kind of ticked me off, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna show that to like a teenager. But
Yeah.
in my head, like if that was my son,
Oh,
I'm smacking him across the head,
yeah.
like literally smacking him across
I'm
the head.
surprised
Like,
you didn't turn around and be like, "Make me."
I mumbled under my
You
like
you want to make me? What's up then?
I said, I did like look at him, and as he's walking by, I shouldn't have said it. I said, "Shut the fuck up." just
Did he
kept-
say anything
just
back
kept
to you?
walking.
Yeah, and that's the disrespect that you deal with. Where it's like, who taught you to be like that?
Right.
Yeah.
What happened to
Right,
you to
it's
make
like-
you be
Like
that
in the moment, it
disrespectful?
kind of ticked me off, but like at the same time, it's like I want to take like, are you good? Like, what's the problem? Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Is that how you act?
I think
know,
I would have
That's
been.
not going to be good for you one day.
I would have been the smart ass that would have been like, "Oh, okay. Let me just accidentally drop my keys. Oh no. Oh, I'm taking too much time. Oh, let me go slower."
No,
Like-
I probably would have got arrested because I would have turned around and been like, "Okay, all right, you got to
Right.
make me move,"
Right.
or I would have been like, "Oh, I'm standing in your way now. What you gonna do?"
He tried to
You were
play it
way
off
too
like he tried to play it off like he didn't hear me.
Look, hey,
Yeah.
Because he just kind of kept going, didn't look at me.
Yeah.
Like he tried to say it like I couldn't hear him, and then act like he couldn't hear me. But
listen,
it's
I'm
like,
nice, but I do not take disrespect.
Yeah.
I didn't like before. It actually bothers me now more than it used to. Like, it used to not bother me. I don't know. I didn't care what people said, but now it's like, why are you gonna be disrespectful?
Right? You don't have to.
You
be.
have no reason. To
You have
be.
no reason to be.
Like,
I think that's the beautiful thing about martial arts that we learn and that people don't really talk about is because, like, especially when you go to those competitions, you may be about to beat the crap out of this person in the ring, but y'all respect each other.
you respect your
Mhm.
opponent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
It's like you grow up that way. You're just gonna have a bitter
Yeah.
life. Like,
Right.
you got to let stuff go, or don't let
Yeah.
stuff bother you. Like, people get road rage and stuff. It's like
Oh,
just
gosh, I'm so bad
take a
about
breath.
that.
I know.
I'm not gonna
I get
lie.
pretty bad too sometimes. Like I've like yelled in my truck, but at the same time, I'm not really bothered. It's
Yeah.
like, so what? I missed a turn. Like we missed our turn. You remember that?
Oh
We-
yeah, yeah.
just-
We're just like whatever.
It'll be
Yeah.
fine. We'll turn.
But you know
around.
what?
But-
I think as a martial arts instructor, you do meet a lot of martial arts teachers that are disrespectful,
Yeah.
and they're teaching their students to be disrespectful. And so it's like, you need to be a better example than that.
yeah.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so the problem is becoming that we're losing some of the moral compass that at one point the martial arts had. You
Yeah.
know, you saw that guy in the community and you're like, oh my gosh, man, that's Master John or
Mhm.
that's Sensei Bob. You respect that guy.
Right.
Now it's like, whatever. He ain't nobody.
all
You know what I
that.
mean? Right.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I think as an instructor that I have learned is that you don't have to beat people up to make them respect you. It's
No.
how you carry yourself, how you
Mm.
treat them,
Your integrity.
your
Yep.
integrity. That's what's going to make them respect you.
Right.
And if you have physical skills on top of that, they'll respect you for that too.
Yep.
But they're not afraid of you. They
Right.
respect you because of who you are as a person in
Yeah.
their life.
That's true.
You
That's
set
right.
that good example.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
how
what
it
you
was
should
with me
be.
coming in here. You know, I
Yeah.
walked in here. You're the first person I saw, but you looked me in the eye, shook my hand, like, you know, what brings you in? You know, such and
Yeah.
such. And as the weeks progressed, like, I remember when I saw you do a split. I didn't think you could do a split. I was like, but then I was thinking in my head, well, he has been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
But you know, and saw you throw like the kicks. I was like, wow, like he practices what he preaches. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And that's what
I
it
love it,
is.
and I respect that. You know,
You respect it. You can create that respect. You know, I don't want to create an environment of fear and you need to fear
Right.
me. That's not what.
right? No, I wouldn't have stuck around a place like that.
Yeah,
If somebody
same.
came in and treated me like a chump, like screw you.
Yeah, I think
know?
that's the interesting thing too. Is not only does it work on your body, it works on your mentality
Mhm.
because
Martial mentality.
yeah, well, because you don't realize like
Cue the music.
Yeah. Well, you know, for me personally, when I first came here, you know, I was aggressive, mouthy, older lady.
Yeah.
I was going to say the B word, but you know, I'll keep it. I think you'll have to bleep enough tonight.
We
but-
got 3 bleeps so far.
I know. I think we've reached our limit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was aggressive mouthy, and I still like to, you know, talk a little bit of crap to you guys, but it's
There's 2
It-
types of talking crap.
yeah. and-
There's friendly gesturing, like build each other up, and then
Well-
there's like crap, like
Yeah,
talking. You know,
and I think I went from I don't want to specifically say man hater, but like I went from being one of those aggressive, like, "Ugh, this type of thing is wrong and that's wrong and da da da," to really like being more subjective of a lot of things in my life and a lot of other issues out there. And now a lot of times when I see people acting that way, I'm like, who hurt you? Why are you acting this way? Because you don't have to. You know, when you lead with respect and, you know, you get taught respect, even through something like martial arts, it was a huge eye opener to me to realize that not all men have toxic masculinity. Masculinity can be an amazing thing if it's utilized properly.
Yep.
And you
put
guys in the,
respect first.
yes,
Yep.
and you guys in the school are an amazing example of that because it really helped me to overcome a lot of the trauma I had that was not just from my kid's father, but also my own parents and my dad and my childhood and growing up. And y'all set an amazing example from what good men could be. And that escalated a lot of my healing where I didn't even realize it. And, you know, you start to realize that I don't want to say your personality, but your mentality changes. The way you look at the world changes, the way you think about things and, you know, address people changes. And when you lead with that type of integrity and respect, other people see it. And other people, you know, they either want to follow that example or they want to learn how they can be that way as well.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true.
I think, you know, before we end this, I think one of the coolest things that we recently experienced, you know, so we came here Saturday and we just kind of did an adult hangout.
Hmm.
And to see all of us, just kind of all different backgrounds, you know, just learn things about each other. We're all laughing and,
Yeah.
you know, we're having a good time. But it really showed me that we have a good, strong sense of community.
Oh,
We
yeah.
respect each other.
Yep.
We care about each other. We love each other. We push each other. And a lot of people in this world are searching for things like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And as you said, a lot of people are jealous
Yeah.
because they want what we have or maybe what your school has. And so sometimes you incite challenge or people
Yeah.
come after you because I've had people, hate on me.
Yep.
People who I'm like, why is this person who, in my mind, you should be off filming movies or doing other stuff. Like
Yeah.
you're, you're doing all this other stuff, but you have time to want to hate on little on me and our school for what? We ain't did nothing to you.
Right. Right.
And you know,
people get in their heads about what other
Yeah.
people do.
And a
It's
lot
like-
of people don't realize the toxic circles and communities that they're already in until they get around one that shows them different.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That's very true.
Because I could tell you back when I was a drinker, and I was partying and drinking, I can maybe name one person, maybe two at best,
Yeah.
that if something went down, they'd have my back. Now, if something went down, I got like an army.
You got a posse, bro. We gonna show up and we gonna roll
Yes.
deep.
Yeah, and then if y'all found out something happened and weren't around, y'all be like,
Yeah.
nah, we ain't doing. We're fixing this. Ain't nobody
Yeah.
gonna treat you that way.
Right.
Listen, look, it's gonna be like we rolling out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's
Yep.
go. We rolling out as a
Yeah.
group,
Right.
But I mean, that's good. We should have each other's back, and we
Yeah.
should,
Yeah.
and I think another thing that I enjoy is that everybody here, if you're doing something wrong, guess what? They're gonna check you. Nah, man, that
Yeah.
ain't right. You don't need
Yeah.
to be doing that.
Right.
Sometimes, and unfortunately, more people in this life need to be checked.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, that's why you're having people with disrespect, like you just said. Because
Mhm.
guess what?
Ain't
I'm old school. I would have checked that guy. Like, oh,
Right.
okay, all right,
Right.
you can talk trash, but you meet the
Mhm.
right person.
It's gonna be bad for you.
Bad,
It's gonna
Yeah.
be very bad for you.
bad, bad, bad. And so somebody hasn't checked that guy, and whoever you are, I'm gonna pray for you because
Yep.
whoever check you, bro.
Right.
woo.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to drag out the podcast, but like I had a little bit of a mouth on me growing up too.
Yeah.
I was always like an outlaw type, right? I had a problem with authority, you know what I mean? And sometimes I went out looking for trouble, and usually I'd find it. But like
Mhm.
at some point in my life, I think what did it for me, everybody's different. But like some people stay disrespectful. I lost some people in my life,
Mm.
and that humbled me because I realized like at first it feels like you're alone. And
Right.
this
Yeah.
only happens to you, but you realize like everybody, every single person has a story,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and you may not know what that is.
Mhm.
That's what kind of showed me and taught me that put respect first,
Yeah.
always.
Right.
Right. So, you put respect first. I mean, you're not gonna have none of like those bad situations. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
You-
you'll avoid
You
most
avoid
situations.
a lot of stuff. You know how
Mhm.
many times I've avoided a horrible situation just by being respectful or being, situationally aware.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's also a part of being situationally aware.
Yep.
Because people think, oh, well, why didn't you do this or why didn't you say something back? Like my recent situation with, I will refer to him as the Avatar. This gentleman, wanted to, get online and start to belittle me just because, he doesn't like me or he didn't like somebody I train with. Well, that's not my problem. I'm not messing with you, man.
Right.
Mhm.
And so instead of me, well, he said this to me, so I'm gonna fight fire with fire. I kind of just, passively aggressively, dealt with him and went on about my business. Well, you know what? He doesn't like that because you know what he wants? He wants a reaction.
Mhm.
Yep.
He wants
does.
the attention. He wants me to get upset. He wants me to be angry.
Right. I had a this is the last story I'm going to tell in this podcast, I swear. But like this happened on several occasions, but one certain occasion is I had a family member, younger, so was my niece. I won't name her. This was some years back, but was dating a guy, and not necessarily a bad guy, but got on some bad stuff, like not super bad stuff, but bad enough, right? And everybody knew it and kept yelling at him and don't do that, it's stupid. People would yell at her, people would yell at him. Like they came over to my place one eventually, and I started talking to him, like I got serious with him. And I was looking at the guy and my niece, but I'm like, I got stern and I said, that you obviously know this is bad and such. But then I kind of changed my tone and like, look, I'm not coming at you from a standpoint of you need to leave my niece alone and I'm going to beat your tail. I'm coming at you from I want you to do better. I want you both to do better. And his face like brightened up, like because nobody had said that to him yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I'm not coming from I'm about to beat you up. It's like I care about you.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to fix this. You know, and that truly helped him. I could see it. You know what I mean? So it's little things like that. You know, I could have like punched him or whatever, or like kicked him out, tell him to leave. But like, what good is that gonna do?
Well, what you just did, or what you experienced in that situation, that's like being a martial arts teacher.
Yeah,
You could probably, you know, I'm gonna beat this guy up.
Right.
I'm gonna use it.
I'ma get mad,
I'm
you
gonna
know,
get
like-
mad. You know, I'm gonna showcase that I'm the best. No, guess what? You need to showcase that you care about your students,
Mhm.
that you love your students. You know, and some people think that's weak,
Yep.
but it's not.
It takes strength.
It takes
It
a lot of
does.
strength.
And you can't ever control what someone else is going to do, but you can control what you do and how you react to a situation. And if you're always presenting your best self and acting with respect, when your integrity is going to show through, maybe not to that person, but anyone else that's around and watching.
Yeah.
Because if someone someone walked in the school and was disrespecting you or going off at you, and you remained respectful and calm, you're teaching so many more better lessons to all the other kids
That's
that are
right.
in here watching that situation than that one person who is going to be disrespectful.
Be your own
Yeah.
superhero. You know, you're writing your
Yeah.
own story. Be the superhero. If you're
Yeah.
gonna write who your superhero is, that's who you want to be. You know,
Yeah.
so
Well.
be that example.
Have that good martial mentality.
Hey, you know.
Now, cue the music.
Yeah, cue the music. So, guys, thank you for listening to our podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're on YouTube at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu. We're on Facebook at the Northern Shaolin School of Kung Fu, and also on Instagram. And so, you know, we want to encourage all of you to, you know, share this with your friends. You know, we're not doing this to make money or anything. We just like martial arts, and we just want to share our experiences and maybe help somebody. So, Joe, Bobby, thank you guys for being on.
Thank
We
you.
had a
Problem.
fun time. And this is probably going to be one of our longer podcasts.
It's fine.
It's
Fine.
okay.
Good conversation.
It
We
was
say
great
that every
conversation.
time.
We
if
do.
anybody has any questions just in general about any kind
Yeah.
of life stuff, or you know,
Or would like
anything
us
that
to
relates
talk
it.
about anything.
Sure.
Yeah. Throw out some topics. We would love to,
Comments.
yes, please
We're
comment.
people too. We don't know everything, but you know, we'll shed
Mhm.
some light on it if we've had experience.
Or if you
Oh,
just want to
yeah.
know something about, anybody that's been on here,
We
feel
do
free
love to
ask.
talk.
Oh, yes, we do. We
Clearly.
enjoy it. We enjoy it. But hey, we're able to talk about things in a
Yes.
positive manner.
That's right.
And
We're not
get it
arguing
out.
over here.
That's
debating,
right.
you
That's
know,
right.
yeah.
That's right. Or if we are debating, we're doing it in a
Civilized.
healthily civilized
Putting
way.
Respect.
Put respect first.
Respect.
That's right.
Your respect.
We can disagree.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Right.
People disagree.
Right.
You know.
That needs to be a podcast.
Yeah. Disagreement.
Oh gosh, Bobby.
I got you.
Okay. So guys, thank you once again, and we are out. Peace.